Timeless Wisdom, Modern World. I loved this title when I saw it first in an email. And one of my friends said, "Oh, I don't know what I'd say about that." But then she thought, "But that's what you've been going on about since you got back from your retreat, so it'll be fine." So hopefully it will be. So I'm going to talk about what's timeless in my own experience. I looked up timeless in the dictionary. I like looking things up in the dictionary. And it's unaffected or unchanged by time, ageless or eternal. And I think there is a lot in my life, in my experience, that is timeless now, thanks to the Dharma. And I don't think there was much before I started practicing the Dharma. My time was quite allotted. But through practice, through wisdom, meditation and ethics, I have experience of timeless realms. They might be, in temporal terms, quite short, but they feel timeless. And yeah, before I started practicing, I think it was mostly just listening to music, maybe dancing, that I'd have that experience. But now it's quite often, and I think even on these weekend retreats we can feel like we're in a timeless realm. Like by Sunday morning you kind of feel like, haven't we just always lived like this? Isn't this just how we live? And I love that. And you can have that on a weekend retreat, you can have that on a longer retreat. And I was fortunate to go on a 3-month retreat this year in Spain with Kusala Devi and others. And it did feel quite timeless. It was a bit like a dream. It went quite quickly as well. I can't believe it happened and it's all over. And now I'm here trying to integrate that experience into the modern world. But there were days that felt very timeless. It's very remote. There's few signs of modernity. There's not much electricity. You might have the odd camera, or you might have some amazing binoculars like Kusala Devi had. So you might have a little bit of technology, but not much really. So you can really just let go and open up into the space, into the time that you've got there. And I loved it. I chose to wear robes and to shave my hair. And that felt like a way of kind of imaginatively engaging with the timeless realm. So linking back into the lineage of the nuns and the monks that lived at the Buddha's time. And also thinking of Sangharakshita as he lived as a monk for 20 years in India. And I kind of felt ageless as well as timeless. Like I felt like I could be at any time and I could be any age, because I didn't have any kind of trendy things on my person. I was just, I was just wearing very simple clothes every day, practicing with my friends. And I think I wrote a poem while I was there that had a line, "The robed sun shadow that speaks of my teacher, ageless, timeless, linking back into lineage." So, and I wrote that while I was there, so definitely this theme, when I read the theme, I thought, yeah, that was something in my experience. And it is a challenge to integrate that kind of experience into the modern world now I'm back into my life as I live it. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think I have an experience of timelessness in wisdom, in meditation and in ethics. So I'll talk about that a little bit. I really love the original texts, like the Pali Canon texts or later texts, Mahayana texts, and we study those in Sheffield as part of the Younger Sangha group. And it's really fun, and the texts are really relevant. And we heard Vidyavachan read one out last night, and it's ancient and it's so relevant still, and I love that. I also was reading some poems by some of the early Buddhist disciples while I was away, the Therigatha, and reciting those, I felt like I was really evoking the power of these women who practiced so long ago, and it still feels so relevant now. And I let verses arise in meditation and reflect on them, just little bits of verse. And this morning I had the first line of the Transference of Merit come up. And I think if you learn things by heart, they can just be there for you. Yeah. And the wisdom of the Buddha is timeless, because he has this vision of reality. He knows reality, and reality doesn't change. It's not just that his thoughts were fashionable and they're kind of still current now. It's just that it is true what the Buddha said. It's not true There's something clever I want to say. What is it? It's not true because the Buddha said it. The Buddha said it because it was true. That's one of my friend Vajratara's favourite quotes. And yeah, Kusala, so I mentioned this vision, and the Buddha had this vision of reality, of truth. And yeah, my meditation practice, I love that too, and there are times that can be timeless within meditation, times that can be timeless. You know, you don't know how long you've been sitting for, there's stillness, there's beauty, clarity, and that can just be a space, again, that you can just sit in, not necessarily knowing how long you've been there for, and I have that experience. And I think there's something about the relevance of the techniques that we do as well. So the Buddha taught the mindfulness of breathing, and he taught the metta bhavana, and we're still doing them now, and they're our practices, and that's how we open up to wisdom. And it's kind of all I need. It was what he did. It's all I need too. And I love how on these weekends we're a large group of young people, and we choose to get up on a Sunday morning and meditate at 7:30. Like that's pretty incredible. Yeah. And mantra as well. We're so fortunate to have that Padmasambhava mantra that we do every year, and also a timeless experience in mantra sometimes, just being with the sound, being with other people. So moving on to ethics. The ethical principles that the Buddha taught, they're how we can act to be in line with how things really are. And they hold no matter what's happening in the world, and I take a lot from that as well. The world can kind of do what it likes. It can get as sorrowful and as bad as it will, but the ethical principles are still the way to live in line with reality. And the application of those ethical principles may change, but they hold because it's natural morality. It's not just how we need to live to get on in our society. It's how we need to live to be in line with reality. And in Sangharakshita's series, the Bodhisattva ideal, he talks about how ethics is natural morality and not conventional morality. And I thought that was just his distinction, and I've always loved it. But I was reading it again recently, and it's actually in the Pali Canon. So there's always been this potential to think that ethics is about convention or about how we need to be in this society. But the Buddha was saying, no, there's these principles that still hold no matter what's going on. I think that's important. So I don't know what distractions there were in the Buddha's time, but I guess there's always been some things that can take us away from the truth. So in my ethical practice, I firstly thought of kindness. It's the first one, listening to others, taking other people in. And I was thinking more about communication. I was thinking it's kind of a combination of kindness, generosity and truthful speech. So also my experience of communication can be timeless when I'm with a friend and we're talking about something that's really important for either one of us and helping to draw each of us out and further to the truth. That can be timeless, and I don't know how long I'm talking to my friend for. And it's not even just one-on-one as well. It can be in a small group if we're talking about something that's really relevant to us. And another phrase that my friend Vajratara really brings out, it's a Bhante phrase as well, Sangharakshita phrase, that communication is vital mutual responsiveness. And that's the ideal of the Sangha. And I think it's this that's timeless. It's that responding to somebody else that's timeless in my experience, and them responding to me. It's a mutual responsiveness. And that doesn't even need to be words, I don't think. And we can offer that to each other, and we can offer it to as many people as we can out in the world. And I'm very, very grateful for my friends for offering this to me. Before I came along to the Dharma, I was very, very shy, very self-conscious, and I didn't really think I could communicate. So as I've started to practice and that those things have dropped away through meditation and through friendship, I feel like I have a gift from my friends and from the Dharma. in this communication. I think the communication exercises that we do, Sadamani did some yesterday, I think they were a big part of the first retreat I ever went on. I kind of felt like I'd just joined this club that I'd never been a part of, that meant I could just look at people and listen to them and not feel kind of all kind of worried or something. Yeah. And yeah, so I think that's a direct effect of the mindfulness of breathing and the metta bhavana and friendship in my practice, and it is such a gift that we can give to each other and to the world, and I'm very, very thankful for my friends for offering that to me. And it's kind of funny talking about this, because I think I'm talking a bit as if it's a done deal, but actually there's always an invitation to go deeper, and I think I'm in that space at the moment, and sometimes it can be quite painful, but it's also very expansive, very beautiful. A lot of love and clarity that my friendship offers to me. So, the modern world. I've come back from this 3-month retreat, and here I am, and it is tricky being back. It's my response to the world feels different to what it was from before I went away, and I think we probably all have this experience of being on a weekend retreat. You go back and you do feel a little bit changed sometimes, and that coming into contact with the world can sometimes be painful. Sometimes it can be really glorious and loving. But yeah, I think when I was going away on my ordination retreat, I was quite focused on the ordination retreat, and I was very hopeful and quite boundaried in a way, because that was what I was doing, that was what my life was about. I was very, very happy to be going. And then I've come back and I feel quite open and quite responsive and more aware. And a little bit freer as well. I have these options as to what I spend my time doing, whereas before I was quite focused. I was going on this retreat and that was what my focus was. So now there's these questions about how to live and how to respond. And the suffering that I'm coming into contact with is kind of hitting home a little bit. It feels a little bit more strong, or I'm having a deeper response or something. Again, I've come back a little bit more open. And I think when metta meets suffering, compassion arises. But what can also happen is we can feel a bit overwhelmed. And at times I have felt a little overwhelmed being back, because that line between compassion and overwhelm has kind of moved a little bit, because before I kind of knew where it was, because I was living my life in this way for a long time. And now I've been away and things have opened up. That line's moved a little bit. I'm having a deeper response, but that can be a bit overwhelming. So I've had to understand how to deal with that, really. And I felt really sad, and I still do sometimes feel very sad about what I'm seeing in the world. The reality of climate change, the refugee crisis. But when I'm feeling sad, and I can connect in with that wish to respond, that feels positive. But when I have gone into this kind of overwhelm, I don't feel able to respond to anybody, actually. And I might be feeling really sad about the world, but then my friend who I live with comes in and talks about her life, and I just feel overwhelmed just by listening to her. So something didn't feel quite right there. I think it's really important that I stay in a positive state to be able to respond to the people that I live with. Because that is true interconnectedness, to be able to respond to the people that are right here and right now, and that is wisdom. And I take a lot of strength from my friendships and being in harmony with people, and then I feel like I can work together with them to respond to the world. So there's just been this question of how to stay in touch with the care and the compassion that is the root of this wish to respond. So again, I go to ethics and I talk to my friends about our ethical choices and how we're each responding to what we see in the world, the suffering that we see. And I'm really grateful for ethics, because it helps me to think clearly. I can find within myself my intuitive response, and I can speak openly with my friends and connect in with those who have strong ethical values and who are acting in the world. And I love that, finding our common values and supporting each other to do what's best for each other to see what's important to each other and how we can all respond. And I think whatever we choose, the attitude that we bring to what we do is important. So there's so many ways that we can respond, but it's the attitude of the ethical precepts that we can bring to what we do to ensure that it has a positive effect. So yeah, we all have choices, and I think we're really fortunate to have a choice and to be in conditions where we can choose how we respond and what we put our energy into. I'm just going to quickly share a little conflict that I've got coming up, which is the 28th of November. It's a day. And there's a day happening at the Buddhist Centre with Jayaraja, Compassionate Communication. So I can take part in that to help to contribute to the vital mutual responsiveness that I've just been talking about. Or there's a meditation day also happening at the Buddhist Centre where I can meditate on the hour every hour and work directly on my mind, on the greed, hatred and delusion that's within my mind. Or I could go to a climate march in Sheffield showing solidarity for the march that's happening in London the next day, that's also supporting the huge mobilisation that's happening in Paris in December. So yeah, a lot of choice there in one day, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, and I think that's something also about coming out of a timeless realm, is that planning ahead is just really odd. So I'll see what I do, but I am sure that one of them, or any of them, is a way to bring timeless wisdom into the modern world. And I'll just end with the verse that came up in my meditation this morning for us all, which is, "May the merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings."